So you have to file bankruptcy. You're 34. Sounds like a divorce. Like everything that can go wrong has just gone wrong.
Totally. I'm starting life from scratch. Yeah.
What do you do next?
Well, I got to eat. So I just went out into the job force to see what there was, and quickly found out that I wasn't qualified for anything for them. Right. I didn't have credentials, or, I didn't have a work history. They didn't have an old boss that they could call and confirm employment. And so I looked at the selling cars and selling insurance. I worked at a temp agency for a long time because I could type really fast. So I was typing. I was a typist, and did that.
It's just crazy going from making millions to, and I can see that though. You have all these skills, but they're not documented. There's not this chronological resume. There's just a guy out there making it happen.
Yep.
But a guy out there making it happen doesn't get a lot of credit when he goes into the normal workforce, if you will.
Yeah. And there was no Gary V to turn to, right? It's like, what's the next move for someone like me that knows how to hustle, right? There was no social media or anything. Like, you're just kind of out there in a desert all by yourself.
Yeah.
And if I went to one job and applied, just rejection after rejection, but applied it at the Ralph's grocery store in Manhattan Beach. And they had just gone on strike. So lucky me, there was an opening and they were starting at $22 an hour. And my whole reference point to an hourly wage was when I was 15 years old, I washed golf carts. You're from Irvine, Rancho San Joaquin Golf Course.
Sure.
Right there.
Sure.
So when I was 15, I would get up at 4 in the morning. I'd bike to school. I'd wash the carts. I'd go to school. Then I'd come back and clean all the carts and plug them back in and do it all over again. So, but that was $3.15 an hour. And so I thought, well, at least it's $22 an hour. That's not terrible.
Yeah.
Until you got your first check. And you're like, who's this guy FICA and why is he taking out so much money?
Exactly.
But it was really a tough time. I mean, when you said humbling experience, it was a bitter experience. I was mad and angry at the world. I blamed everybody and everything for where I was in life.
Yeah.
It was everybody's fault. And then after about 6 months of that, I was like, kind of woke up. Wow, it looks like nobody's coming to save me.
Cavalry's not here.
And there were no shortages of shoulders to cry on. Lots of empathy to go around, but there was no help.
Yeah.
And so, as you alluded to in the intro, the grocery store manager, who he was also 34 years old. I was 34 years old. And he had been there since he was 16. So he was only 2 years away from hitting his 20-year mark when he was going to be able to retire drawing 70% of his salary for the rest of his life.
Wow.
So, like, he was just finishing. And I was like, I was just starting.
Yep.
But we had a lot in common. And so we talked a lot. And he said to me one day, he said, man, come up here and let me show you. So we went up to his office and he pulled out a photo album. You remember photo albums, don't you, Roger?
Sure.
We actually put pictures and pages and looked through them like in a book. And he had a picture of a couple apartment buildings that he'd been able to acquire. And he was very proud of them, like they were his kids. And he says, in 2 years, I'm going to be out of here and I'll get my 70% of my salary for the rest of my life. But you know what? These 2 apartment buildings will pay me more than what that salary will pay me.
Wow.
And that's where he said these words. And you almost got it right. It's not passive income. Yep. He said real estate is the final frontier where the average person has a legitimate shot at creating real wealth. And those are just pivotal words for me at the moment because I really missed my money. I mean, that was really tough. I mean,
People say money doesn't buy happiness. Maybe not, but man, it gets you right to the front door. It gets you right to the front door of happiness. You still have to open the door, but it gets you right there.
Yeah. I mean, I've been rich and poor, and rich is better.
Yep.
Right?
Amen.
Regardless of how your emotions are at the time or what you're dealing with.
Yep.
It's easier to deal with problems when you have the money.
So he gives you this sage advice.
Yep.
What are you thinking as you walk out of his office that day?
Well, there's 3, pivotal words in that statement. Real estate is the final frontier. I was like, wow, this is it. I've been looking at all the wrong places. This is the last one. Okay, there's a shortcut. And he said for the average person, and at that point in my life, at 34 years old, bagging groceries, I felt far below average.
Mm.
And then to make real wealth. And I was like, okay, real wealth, legitimate wealth. So that was just like all arrows just pointed to that. And I think the next day the strike ended. And so he came to me and said, hey, we'd love to keep you. You've been a great worker and I'd love to keep you around. But now that the strike's over, you have to go union and you're going to have to start at $7 an hour.
Wow.
To do the job that $22 an hour wasn't paying. And I was like, okay, there's my sign. There was my kick out the door. And I took a bottle of wine home that night and went home and searched everything real estate. And by the time I was all done searching, I'd come across an estranged aunt. I hadn't seen her in probably 15 years. She was in Seal Beach, California. And found out that she'd been like the #1 real estate agent there for 27, 28 years. And so I hadn't talked to her. I was kind of nervous, but I was filled with liquid courage by that point. And just fired off the email and said, hey, it's me. What's up? I heard you do real estate. And in the morning, she had responded. We had lunch that day. And within 24 hours, I was in real estate agent school.
Wow.
So that's how the transition from music to real estate happened.